ever wonder what Winona Ryder's doing nowadays? You know, Beetlejuice, Little Women. She was that freaky ballerina from Black Swan. She had a klepto moment once when she robbed a store, technically. You watch movies, don't you? And of course you do. I assume the majority of the world has seen Beetlejuice, so you know Winona Ryder, right? I hope. Well, the answer to the first question is she is doing something. She actually starred in a Netflix original series recently. I'm not usually one for Netflix original shows since I have enough on my plate, but I've heard some really great things from these shows like House of Cards and Orange is the New Black. My husband likes that show. So what is it about this show that finally cracked me down and made me watch a Netflix original series? Getting a bit of an 80s vibe here. 80s. Radical! From the wardrobe to the atmosphere to the story, this series is an homage to classic 1980s Hollywood horror movies that we just hold dear to our hearts. Except mine. Because I'm a scaredy baby. I grew up not wanting to watch horror. That is until recently. I've been trying to conquer my fears over these horror films, but he's still scary. I'm scared. Horror film don't come out until it's over. So this is Pop Spectrum's review of Netflix original series Stranger Things. The story is basic enough, but it's a basic story you would expect from the 1980s. In a slum town located in Indiana in 1983, a young boy named Will mysteriously disappears. His mother, Joyce, played by Winona Ryder, becomes frantic and tries to find Will, while Police Chief Hopper begins his own investigation. The very next day, a strange girl with abnormal abilities appears in the town, trying to hide from a secret agency who may be behind the stranger things occurring. There's the title, Stranger Things Occurring! I slipped in the title. I'm that good. The show does everything a TV series and a movie should do. Whether the story is basic or original, it gives us an intriguing atmosphere with amazing characters, and they just find a way to make it all work. I will say that overall, this is a damn good series to check out. The characters are great and memorable, the setting and the atmosphere are fantastic, and it perfectly captures 1980s horror Hollywood. I, for one, try to avoid horror films of any kind, no matter how stupid they can be to others, but my supportive husband has been helping me get over that fear recently with great movies like Shaun of the Dead and Cabin in the Woods. Quite frankly, one of my favorite movies, Cabin in the Woods. The point of the story is, my husband was just in awe over how fascinated I was with this series. There were times when we would try to watch a show together, and I would have a hard time remembering some of the characters, because maybe I'm not that interested in the show, but I'm just like, who's that guy again? What's his name? You know, that character, that guy right there, what's his name? Okay, good. That's his name. There are some parts in the series where my husband would be all like, wait, what's that character's name again? And I'd be just naming it off the bat, and he's like, I am impressed. You're actually paying attention to a horror series. And these characters are just memorable. Joyce, Hopper, Eleven, Mike, Dustin, Nancy, etc., because they're all great and memorable characters. There were a few characters that really stood out to me as my favorites. Winona Ryder as Joyce is just amazing to me. She plays a broken woman who's doing her best to raise two growing boys, only to have one of them suddenly disappear. She tries to accept the reality of the situation, but when the paranormal phenomenons begin to occur, she does her best to reach out and find her boy. We see a woman doing everything she can to get her son back, even when her friends and family believe she's driving herself to the brink of insanity. Trying to talk to your kid using the lights, Joyce? Okay, you do that. But definitely, Winona Ryder is not in there for namesake. She actually plays a really good character, and I loved her character to pieces. Then there's Eleven, played by Millie Bobby Brown. I love that name. That is like an adorable name. Millie Bobby Brown. You sound like a kind of girl I want to hug. Heck, the character in this series, I'm like, oh, come here, sweetie, I want to give you a hug. You need love. Eleven is a girl that was experimented on ever since she could remember, and is just trying to find a place where she can be safe, away from the man who she calls Papa. I was very impressed with her performance as this lost and scared little girl who at first wants to run away, only to stand up for herself and defend the ones she can call friends. You see the fear and devastation in her eyes when her friends want to understand her, but her behavior scares and confuses them. She's facing so many dangers and elements normal characters could never comprehend, but Millie Bobby Brown really knew how to pull it off. Special props to Randall P. Havens, who plays the science teacher Mr. Clark. He comes off as a nerdy teacher, but he's more to it than that. He's smart, but more nurturing when it comes to his students, especially the main boys. It just made me want to see more teachers like him in the world. Seriously, it just feels like they don't make good teachers like they used to. But by far, my favorite character in the entire series has to be Dustin Henderson, played by Gaten Matarazzo. He comes off as the typical 80s fat kid trope with his cowardice behavior and always wanting to eat, but he actually comes off as a better character than that. He's the friend we all should have, the kind that'll be there for us no matter what, but will call you out on your own bullshit. Now, speaking of tropes, this show is full of them. I mean, it wouldn't be an homage if it didn't have tropes. But some of the tropes actually evolve as the story progressed. Steve Harrington, played by Joe Keery, could have come off as the stupid jock character who will mistreat his girlfriend and come off as a big jerk. But as the story progressed, he actually comes off as an 80s version of Danny Zuko. You know, the tough guy who has a good heart but won't admit it to look cool in front of his friends. His character could have been one thing, but it was actually something else towards the end, which is what I really appreciated. The one trope that bugged me, but not too much, was Mike Wheeler, played by Finn Wolfhard. There's one tired trope that needed to be refreshed a teeny bit. It's the typical 80s pack leader, the kid who leads his ragtag team of diverse friends as they go on their crazy adventures while bugging his obnoxious sister. You should definitely watch Monster Squad to see Mike's persona in all of its cheesy 80s glory. He values the power of friendship while getting easily upset when something goes wrong. That does get annoying from time to time, but that's why I love Dustin's character even more.
You're shaking his hand.
No, I'm not.
This isn't a discussion. This is the rule of law. Obey.
Needless to say, each character is a huge trope that either evolved or kept to their nature. The rundown cop with a tragic past, the ignorant parents who will never know what's really going on, the kid hero and his ragtag team, the rebellious teenage girl who wants to date the popular guy, the misunderstood teenage boy, the dumb popular kids, and the one everyone thinks is crazy. For the most part though, the characters either broke their tropes or played them off really well. The atmosphere, the setting, and the music was spot on. While keeping its 80s charm, the series incorporated a lot of hit songs to bring in that 80s feel. White Rabbit by the Jefferson Airplanes, African by Toto, Should I Stay or Should I Go by The Clash, the list goes on. So the soundtrack of the show was excellent and really fitting the series at the same time. The series synthesizing score was done by composers Michael Stein and Kyle Dixon, two members of an Austin Sith band called Survive. What can I say? It's not the 80s without synthesizing. And that title screen? That was actually done by Richard Greenberg, who designed a number of classic 80s title sequences such as Alien, Altered States, Superman, and The Goonies. Does it get any more 80s than this? Yes, it actually does. The creators of the show, Matt and Ross Duffer, had to try and sell the idea of this show to Netflix, so they made a mock trailer using 25 feature films including E.T., Nightmare on Elm Street, Super 8, and Halloween. The writers of the show watched and rewatched the movies to really sink in that 80s vibe. The boys who auditioned for this show had to reenact scenes from the movie Stand By Me in order to convince the Duffer brothers they could seriously pull it off. And the overall look of the show was modeled after a Stephen King novel. The little details are really nice as well. From the classic Coke can to all things you could see in the boys' bedrooms like the Jaws posters, the creators of the show really knew how to bring you back to that time. The music, the acting, the setting is just 100% 80s Hollywood, which is what the creators really wanted to sell to Netflix. I'd say with all the effort and time they put into the series, it really shows. I will say there is one thing that kinda bugged me when it came to the 80s look. Nancy Wheeler, played by Natalia Dyer. For a young, rebellious teenage girl, her hair just wasn't 80s enough to me. Unless Indiana girls in 1983 had flat hair, the late 70s and all throughout the 80s, it was just big, wild hair everywhere. My mom, who could care less about her hair, had poofier hair compared to Nancy. If anything, her hairstyle pretty much screamed the 90s, but I digress. Go watch Teen Witch for some real 80s hair. As one other negative thing I have to discuss, the ending was a bit off to me. There's only 8 episodes in this series, with a good chance for a sequel, I hope, but there were some parts in the ending that felt a bit off for me and a bit rushed, mainly concerning Eleven and Dr. Martin Brenner, aka Papa. Would I recommend Stranger Things? Yes, I would. The creators wanted to create the ultimate 80s horror story, and I believe they pulled it off. Sure, they had some weak tropes and the ending was a bit off, but just look at what they did. The characters are wonderful, the setting is brilliant, the music is amazing, and the overall heart of the series really makes it a one-of-a-kind show. With all that effort they put into the series, with the ominous cliffhanger they left behind, I'm hoping to see what else they can do with the series. Then again, it left an open ending to the point where it's good the way it is. So whether I get a sequel or not, it doesn't really bother me. Like, sure, give me more episodes, why not? I'd love to see what else you can do, but it's good the way it is. You don't have to push a sequel if there was never one to be made. So in the end, all of us here really recommend you watch this show. Pop Spectrum gives Netflix's original series Stranger Things 4 pops out of 5. I wasn't sure how to rank this with how the series ended, but I can't ignore all the effort and heart they put into this memorable series. There's just so much detail, so much heart and love and care went into it. Stephen King, Jaws, Classic Coke, 80s cheesedom, synthesizers! This is Robin from Pop Spectrum. Thanks for watching. Be sure to like, favorite, and comment on this video, as well as subscribe to Pop Spectrum. Thank you for watching!